Dr. Chris Yeager here with IsoBaseball. You can reach us at isobaseball.com.
Okay, I'd like to let everyone see the whip effect in action here. This is a major leaguer captured with our motion analysis system at 240 frames per second. And again, the main thing that I want you to be able to see and identify is how these segments slow down and pass energy out to the hands and bat, creating a whip effect. And that these high-level hitters aren't trying to spin through contact. They're not trying to muscle through. They funnel energy to the hands and bat, and they're not trying to rotate their entire bodies through contact. Okay, so again, here looking at the sequence is the back leg. The foot's off the ground. It's loaded. As it unloads during the stride, it presses sideways into the front side. And then that front leg begins to work on the front of the pelvis, opening the pelvis from the front. Okay, and again, at this point, you can see how the hips have gotten out in front of the shoulders. Shoulders are still a little closed. The hips have begun to open. This is that X factor stretch they talk about in golf. And again, this is just like we saw in the graph, where the hips gain speed first, and they get out in front and lead the way. Okay, and of course, the hips are going to then begin to tug and pull on the torso. And the shoulder segment as well, and we begin to see the shoulder segment begin to rotate as it's pulled around by the pelvis. The shoulders and torso begin to open up. We also notice at this point that the shoulders have tilted as well, and that tilt occurs here at the front hip. And really, the feeling that we try to coach here is much more of a tilted shoulder than a turning shoulder. But again, our main purpose here is showing the whip effect. And again, as you see those shoulders being pulled around, you can see them rotating. But then as that back arm begins to fire, you can see how they're not moving much anymore. The rotation slows. Okay, so we get rotation through here, rotation through here. As the back arm begins to fire out into extension, the shoulders decelerate. Okay, as they slow down, they're giving their energy and momentum out to the arm, hands, and bat. Okay, so hopefully that's evident, very evident there for you as the shoulders are turning, but then they slow down just like we saw in our graph. As they decelerate, hands and bat accelerate. Okay, now we can look at the same thing with the hip segment. Again, you can see through contact how there's not much rotation going on. Okay, again, as that front foot lands, the hips really pick up speed. This is where we're kind of peeking out with the hips about right here. Then they begin to slow down, and then as you can see, as the hands firing through, we don't get much turning through. So all this idea about let me spin my hips through contact, or how hard can I twist my back foot, where some people think rotation comes from, is how hard they can spin their back foot or spin their back leg. You can see that the hips are not rotating through contact. If they are, it's very slow. And really, the higher the level of the pattern, the more deceleration, the more transfer you get from the hips. Okay, so this is our whip effect. This is our whip effect in action as body parts slow down to pass energy out to the hands and bat. And again, this whip effect, combined with the stretch reflex of the muscles and tendons, applied to what the greatest hitters in history have done, this is the foundation of my IsoBaseball system. Is the kinetic chain applied to the greatest hitters in history, and becoming not only effective in terms of bat speed or power generation, but also understanding how the best hitters have become efficient with the kinetic link as well, in terms of dealing with quickness to the ball and plate management. So again, with IsoBaseball, we're going to allow the body to rotate, but we're not going to force rotation. The body will rotate sufficiently without actually thinking about turning. We want to create a whip effect through the ball. We don't want to feel like we're spinning through contact. And so really, in the highest level pattern, we create all the rotation we need simply by letting the back leg press sideways into and against this front side, and then the body will stabilize behind a strong front side. Okay, This front side is working against that front hip to open it from the front. So there's really no thought about turning. This front leg begins to work on the ground, and it's going to open the hip, and then the hips pull the torso around. A poor sequence would have the individual utilizing muscles prematurely in the torso to prematurely bring about the shoulders. But we get all the rotation we need simply by allowing that front leg to take the energy from the backside and open the pelvis from the front. The opening pelvis pulls the body around, okay, and then we funnel energy out to the hands and bat. So, be aware that the whip effect is a real phenomena in batting and golf and throwing, where, again, these large base segments decelerate and funnel energy out to the hands and bat. Okay, you're trying to create whip effect. You're trying to give energy out to the distal point. In this case, it's the hands and bat. Instructors need to quit trying to force rotation and quit trying to ask hitters to spin through contact and work more on funneling energy out to the point of contact. There is a rotational hysteria that has taken place the last 10 to 12 years, and IsoBaseball is on a mission to put an end to it. Now here's Ryan Adams, major leaguer with the Baltimore Orioles, working live in my facility just north of New Orleans, side by side with the motion analysis capture. And you see Ryan here working with the baseball arm trainer attached, working to perfect that back arm pattern. But again, what we're trying to identify here is the whip effect, and establishing again the fact that we're not trying to spin or rotate through contact, rotate our entire bodies through contact. And here again, as you see Ryan approaching the ball, if you take note of the shoulders, you can see about at this point here they begin to rapidly slow down. You can see here the hips have opened and they begin to pull the shoulders around. Okay, we've got good tilt here. Again, that's originating at the front hip. We're tilted behind the front side. Okay, but the shoulders are being pulled around. At this point, they've begun to rapidly slow down. Now watch how the back arm finishes and the hands finish, and the relatively small amount of movement that's occurring in the torso and in the shoulders segment here. Again, the shoulders move to a point, okay, and then as he's finishing those hands, there's very little turning of the torso there, just like what we witnessed when we were looking at just the motion analysis figure. Okay, you can see as those hands are finishing, his shoulders have slowed, his torso, this entire mass, okay, the hips have slowed down, the torso has slowed down, this entire massive system has slowed down and has given its energy out to the hands and bat, and the hands is what finishes the swing. So again, as you think of a person cracking a whip, they decelerate their arm, they take the energy from their body and pass it out to that whip, which gets smaller and smaller, and eventually it's all focused in the tip of the whip and it breaks the sound barrier. We have the same thing occurring here. Again, as the batter drives his weight against his front side, the front leg opens the pelvis from the front, and we've got a massive amount of energy working through the human body. But the best hitters most effectively focus that energy on the end point. So again, the hips will begin to slow down, the shoulders begin to slow down, and everything is passed out to the hands. Again, I hope it's very evident there that the shoulders are not spinning through contact, and what's working through contact is really just the finishing of the back arm and the finishing of the hands through contact. And that's why you hear a lot of pro hitters talk a lot about hands, and you hear people say, well, there's not enough muscle mass in the hands to be creating the energy. However, all the energy has to pass through the hands, and so the hands have to be strong enough. They're not creating the energy, but they are there to transfer it out to the bat head. And so a hitter that feels his hands working through contact and not his body, really what that's telling the researcher is that he is created whip effect. So high level hitters really feel their hands work through contact. They don't feel like they are having to muscle everything through contact. In other words, they create the energy and then they effectively funnel that energy out to the hands and bat. Again, it's the bat head is whipped through. You're not trying to spin your body through contact. This is just a beautiful example of what we're looking to do. Just a beautiful example of creating energy and then the body funneling that energy to the hands. And if the hitter learns to work his hands properly, then the body naturally decelerates to give that energy to the hands. So he doesn't have to think so much about decelerating as much as he does the proper feel and usage through the hands will create a backwards chaining effect of letting the torso slow down and properly give that energy out to the hands.